Welcome to Vision Weekend, everyone. I think we're really all here as a community because we have an interest in shaping what's to come, right? And together, I think as this group, if you look around you, this group could do really tremendously outrageous things together. So I think this weekend is really the chance to set the foundation for the world we want to have as a community in the world. And I'm always really impressed when I dig into Foresight's archives, right? And I discover that concepts that are now hip and en vogue have been around for a really long time. Take prediction markets, for example. We've had idea futures at a member gathering 18 years ago, probably even longer ago, with Robin Hanson, and already on topics like AGI and biotechnology then. And now prediction markets are finally being realized, even on the blockchain. So there was hypertext, which Mark here was really pioneering, and which is now coming to fruition in a couple of promising projects. And of course, there's e-money, which is now cryptocurrency. And I think it's really interesting that those ideas are always portrayed as novel inventions, right? But it's really important to not forget that they don't develop in a vacuum. They're envisioned, they're played with, they're prototyped, they dip, hello cryptocurrency, and then they mature. And then eventually they become part of the public consciousness. And this interesting effect kicks in, by which we think they've been around forever. But someone has to do the pre-work, right? That work that's on the edge of the doable and the impossible. The work that not one organization can do. The work that many organizations have to do. The work that doesn't pan out in a year, but maybe in 5, 15, or 30 years. Now, 30 years later, Foresight has been around for 30 years, many of our original visions have come to fruition. So it's really, really possible to make prototypes of the future and actually inspire change. So this weekend, let's do this again, right? Let's create the futures we want instead of the futures we have. How? How are we going to do this? Well, let's look at our goals here. You all have a booklet. Who here doesn't have a booklet? No booklet? Come see Marsha or a volunteer. In the booklet, you have this first section on instructions, right? So let's look at the goals. In 2 days only, we'll generate 30-year strategies that navigate technologies of crucial importance for the future away from dystopia toward utopia. We'll plot out what we can reasonably hope for and how to increase the likelihood of getting there. And by doing this for 7 technology tracks, AI, cyberspace, neurotechnology, health technology, bio-nanotechnology, cryptocommerce and blockchains, and space technology, we get a pretty good grand picture of the role of different technologies in the next 30 years, and of their respective promises and perils, and what strategies are available to us that are robust across different scenarios. So let's look at the program. Saturday, a mouthful. So in each of those slots, from 10:30 to 12:30, you pick one of the technologies, right? You pick either AI or neurotechnology. In the next slot, you pick either health technology, cyberspace, or space. And in the final slot, you pick either biotechnology or cryptocommerce and blockchains. The top technology is always upstairs, the bottom technology is always downstairs. So you can't do everything, right? But that's what Sunday is for. You have to pick wisely, okay? Pick wisely. You can only do one of those. What you do for each technology track is that you generate corner scenarios. First, you'll generate a dystopian and a utopian scenario for your technology track, including all effects on technology, society, politics, and ecology. Very, very easy. Then, armed with those dystopian and utopian corner scenarios, you'll follow your favorite strategist in their track to generate a strategy that navigates away from dystopia toward utopia. You derive an action plan, you craft achievable interim goals, you lay out the crucial considerations of your group, and this is all in your booklet. There's pens around, please take notes. And then on Sunday, your track chairs will present your hope strategy to the big group. And after each track has presented their strategy, we compare the strategy amongst technology tracks and find promising avenues to align forces. This is the crazy slide. This is Sunday evening. This is where we're going to get to. Okay? All right. So let's talk about your takeaways. Down there, they're also in your booklet. What's in it for you? There's the low-hanging fruit. You can gain friends, you can gain colleagues and co-conspirators who you can cooperate with beyond your technology track, right? That's low-hanging. Then there's the achievable. The achievable is that if we do it right, you've gained some insight into what desirable paths for technologies of fundamental importance for the human future may look like, and how they may influence each other. And then there's the stretch goal, right? The stretch goal, what if it goes really, really well? Well, then you can join specific projects that are generated at this weekend that work toward realizing those desirable goals. My hope, at least, is that individual presentations will become the starting point for the different parts of our human projects. So if you want to make sure that you have private time with strategists and fellow patrons beyond just the weekend, please consider our gathering tonight for speakers and donors at the 5K level. And at 6:30, we're heading to Gill's Clock Tower, which is over here. It's a little utopia itself, for dinner, drinks, and discussions. And you get the chance to really mingle with everyone, to debrief Saturday, to plan for Sunday and beyond. But of course, the 5K donation doesn't buy you a dinner, right? It really allows us to do the work that we do throughout the year. In the booklet, you can find our progress report and the individual projects that we do throughout the year and that we'd love to start next year. They all have price tags. So if you'd like to make a specific project happen, you're welcome to direct a donation toward that project. Please see Lou or me throughout the day if you're interested in joining. All right, so let's start talking about the process for today. Okay, here we go. Sorry?
Who else needed these?
Who else needed these? Steve over there. Okay, great. Alrighty, let's start talking about the process for today. So here on existentialhope.com, this is a website that I created to map out both peril and promises which lie before us in the different technologies, with the hope that such maps really empower us to navigate toward grand futures. All right, so you can take notes in your personal booklets, but beyond that, this will be our virtual headquarters for coordinating. If you go on the website existentialhope.com and you click on Vision Week and Collaborate, this will bring you to this spreadsheet here. And this spreadsheet is basically the program that you all have in your individual programs. And you can click on Saturday. This is where the note takers in your sessions will be taking live notes. So you can check on the progress that everyone else is making in the different tracks if you have so much FOMO that you can't be there. All right, and then we have Sunday where we present everything. This is basically the program that I already showed you. We have the chairs here, but here are additional perks, right? Here is the participant spreadsheet. So this is the section where you can fill in your name, your existential hope vision, and your email if you'd like to stay in contact. And you'll be surprised how many co-conspirators you may find. And then finally, if you want your strategists to make predictions that are beyond your technology track, then fill those questions in there and nudge them to make predictions on the spreadsheet, right? Nudge them hard. Yeah, Dekai, you will be making those. Don't laugh. So I filled in a few example questions here, and those are questions from previous Foresight gatherings. It's from a treasure trove of 1995 predictions by a few outstanding individuals in the community. And ask Mark if you want more information on those predictions. And I used some example questions. Please add your own. So these are questions that Mark once pulled together, and a few people in this community have actually already made predictions on those. So ask Mark if you'd like more info on that. Previously, at Foresight gatherings at least, people voted by, afterwards on prediction markets, they voted by literally sending a money check to the office. And then we updated prediction markets. So we're not going to do that today, even though it's really nice. We're going to use the spreadsheet, though, to collaborate in the future, right? So this spreadsheet is really there to track progress. So be careful what you're wishing for, because we've been around for 30 years. So there's a really good chance that we can follow up and check in on what progress we make in 30 years. So take this really as a kickoff. Use the spreadsheet to find collaborators and share it with people who make progress on the same track. It's not only to coordinate today, but to cooperate on those strategies after Vision Weekend. And ultimately, I'd really love for this to become the nexus of a committed long-term community. And next year, we can check in and see where we're at. And in the end, everything will totally come out differently. But that's fine, because then we have something to update from and are a little better calibrated the next time around when big changes come. So this won't be really one vision either, right? It may involve a lot of different visions, maybe as many as minds in this room, right? It's really not about picking the one thing to do. It will require a diverse, multipolar, fractal effort. But for those to succeed, they cannot be ignorant of the container that they're being developed in. And some of our hopes today will pan out, and others really won't. But we can update, and we should do so in a hopeful manner. We shouldn't be blindly over-optimistic, right? And we shouldn't be angstful. We should go all in imagining the highest possible goal that we can conceivably strive for. And sometimes that's optimizing, and sometimes that's depessimizing. So, let's start with some goal setting here. Okay, so in a minute, you'll be going off to generate your own utopia, dystopia, and existential hope strategies, okay? So let's do a little global test run for this, right? So that we know what we're getting into. Not for one track, but for the large picture, to get a hand of it. So what's a global dystopia? Well, Nietzsche can help out here. He said, in some remote corner of the universe, poured out in glittering in innumerable solar systems, there once was a star on which clever animals invented knowledge. That was the highest and most mendacious minute of world history, yet only a minute. After nature had drawn a few breaths, the star grew old, and the clever animals had to die. There have been eternities when it did not exist, and when it's done for again, nothing will have happened. So that was easy. Dystopias are easy, right? Okay. And yeah, sure, given like a snapshot of our current macro situation, it looks like we may be hurtling to this scenario. Or does it? How bad is it currently? Well, it's not perfect, but it's much better than it used to be. Look at the history. Look at how human conditions have improved over time. In his new book, Enlightenment Now, Pinker points out that we tend to really underestimate how much progress we've made as civilization. The decline of poverty is just one note. The same holds true for the decline in violence. You really wouldn't want to live 100 years ago. And yes, I know that Pinker's optimism has many critics. One of them wanted to write a sequel to the book, which is entitled, Why Everything is Awesome and We're All Going to Die. But it's really, really seductive to be pessimistic, right? It's seductive to be fatalistic. But it's not really helpful to be cynical. At least not all the time. Nietzsche, of all people, said, we can destroy only as creators. But let us not forget, and he said this too, that it's enough to create new names and valuations and probabilities in order in the long run to create new things. Right? It's really easy to be against something. It's much harder to come up with an alternative. So let's try to do this today. Let's try to create new things. Let's try to write that book on why everything is going not too terribly and how we can make it go much, much better. All right, so for a moment, let's just pretend the rate of improvement continues. Not even in huge jumps, but it just continues, right? What would be in such a book? What would things be like in such a future? Where the average human lives much better than we, the most fortunate people on this planet, live today. So, in fact, Christine, Mark, and I are actually writing a book on it, and I'm happy to talk to you more about it. But in this book, we outline one vision for utopia, which is really just a vision for utopias. For us, it's really a voluntary world in which different entities cooperate freely with each other to realize their interests. And it's based on the premise that finding one utopia that works for everyone is really hard, probably impossible. And in the absence of knowing what's in everyone's interest, let's not try to impose interest by one entity, whether an AI or an organization or a state, but let's create a framework in which different entities, whether human or artificial, can pursue their interests freely by cooperating with each other. This vision is a Pareto Autopia, in which we're consistently moving the Pareto frontier upward. This strategy, or a version of that at least, has worked well thus far. It's really not perfect right now, right? But by allowing humans to cooperate and to engage in mutually beneficial relationships, civilization really already serves human interests. And this mechanism is really, really not perfect, right? But as a whole, civilization tends, at least imperfectly, to climb Pareto preferred paths. We've survived so far, and in much, much better ways. So let's not destroy this highly evolved process, but let's strengthen this. If you're interested in the book, please come see me. But they're just like our dystopia and utopia, right? Dystopia Nietzsche, utopia, perhaps Pareto Autopia. And of course, you may disagree, right? And you really should disagree. So let's perhaps look at a few potential utopias that you can generate for the different technology tracks. If you go on existentialhope.com, all the different technology tracks today, you can find them in one version or the other here. And if you click on the focus area, this will open up to a document in which we collect the best work toward those positive futures in the different domain, right? Feel free to add to it. It's collaborative. It's really a group effort. But let's really look at some of the different utopias in the different tracks. So number one, health, right? Let's look at the health track. Well, it would be really nice if people were more than just okay, right? Both physically and mentally, right? They have no trauma in an ideal world. They can live to the fullest of their cognitive and creative abilities. And they may have sensory experiences beautiful beyond imagination for us. And people don't age. And this is totally physically possible. Every day people are getting ill and dying for no reason, right? Just imagine a world without aging, without the cost of brains deteriorating. Every day aging is burning libraries, and we don't have to do it. What about poverty? We've already come a long way in this area, but imagine how much further we can go with nanotechnology, for example. Imagine what nanotechnology can do for abundance. Imagine a world in which gadgets and goods that run our society are produced not in far-flung supply chains, but instead in compact, even desktop-scale machines. And then there's environmental pollution. Absolutely not necessary. We could remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. It wouldn't even take super sophisticated geoengineering. We're dedicating our next workshop to it. And then finally, do we have to stay on this planet? Well, we really shouldn't. We're vulnerable on this planet, even if we clean up our mess, right? We have historical evidence that we're vulnerable. The dinosaurs are gone, right? So let's back up life and take the next step, at least into the solar system. Let's not be as stupid as the dinosaurs. And this all assumes that we have to deal with existing institutional arrangements. But there's no need for that. We could create ecosystems that are trustless, in which we can credibly commit, in which we can take out the middleman and incentivize good behavior. And what collaterals, really, would this better way of coordinating have on any of the problems that we're trying to solve? It's really hard to imagine. And then finally, this assumes we have to do it alone. But what if we get the multiplying factor in, AI? An augmentation factor to our ability to think and make decisions and have an impact on the world. And yes, we worry about the risks, and we should be worried. But we have to remind ourselves that we're only developing this technology in the first place because of the tremendous potential benefits. The multiplying factor to our ability to do good may literally be beyond our intelligence. And Mark had a really nice way of saying this. So he said, the big dumb universe is a supersaturated solution for intelligence, and we get to be the seed crystal. And now is the time where we determine which crystal to be. Well, we can totally do it. But jokes aside, really, there really is, I think, like a point in trying, right? There's really nothing that's preventing us from creating a free world of abundance for everyone without pollution, physical and mental impairment, and unfurling these healthy systems into the universe. And some of you in the audience may have different goals, and that's totally fine, right? It requires different efforts. But the point is really that it's realistic to want those things, right? It is realistic. There's a lot of work to do, but it isn't irrational to want those things. We are the people with those goals. And do we know what the chances are? They may be very small. But in the absence of knowing, we can either try or not try. So let's live and choose to live as if it matters what we do. I personally don't want to live in a world where I look back at my life knowing I could have made a significant difference, but I didn't because I wasn't sure that it would work out fine. So if you opt into this, then let's take that bundle of existential angst and put it to the side, just for a minute. We've dealt with them and we've decided that we're still going to do it. And this doesn't mean ignoring the risk, but it means not getting upset at them anymore. It means seeing them now as your personal challenge. Look the dystopian scenario in the eye and see them as your challenge. And the best thing is, this is really the fun option, right? It's not the only option we have in our lives, but it's the fun option. Albert Camus taught us that We have to imagine Sisyphus even as a happy person, despite of the fact that his task was to carry the stones up the mountain, even though he knew they would roll down again. But our situation is really different, right? It's much better, because different to Sisyphus, we can really imagine a future where stones stand on mountains, futures that work out well. And isn't that all we could ever ask for? And so much more than past strugglers had. So, I think nihilism was once rational in the face of our current human limitations. But then existentialism came along, right? With a more ambitious vision. It was about creating meaning within our limitations. But I think now we need to dial it up a notch. We are in a position now where we shouldn't accept our current limitations as default. Instead, existential hope is treating our current limits as the foundation to build the next step on. And heaven knows there's much room for improvement, but it's already much better than it used to be. So let's keep pushing. Now is the time. Today really can be that day that you can look back at in the future and say, thank God I went to this weekend. Hopefully you're much older in time, but you haven't aged. So thank you really for giving this weekend to it. I really, really can't wait for what's on the other side. So now I'd like to start with your goals. So your visions for a positive future. So I'd like to invite everyone to take 1 minute now, in silence, to think about the grand goals you want, the future you want for this community and beyond. And don't worry if this is in stealth mode and not a coherently fleshed out utopia. I just want you to think about the world that you want for a minute. Are any of the things overlapping with the things that I said? What am I missing? Right? So let's take 1 minute in silence, starting now, and feel free to take notes on your booklet. We will be checking in on them. All right, go. All right. Does anyone need more time? Okay. So, for now you have those visions in your booklets. But I would encourage you to go on existentialhope.com, click on the program, and fill them in next to your name. I think you'll be really surprised by how many co-conspirators you may find. Or you won't be surprised, but they'll be there. And we'll be checking in on them again on Sunday evening to see what we can commit to. All right, so with that being said, yes, Brian.
So, the question, so is today reportable?
Sorry.
What were the days or the sessions reportable?
So today, we'll be doing the brainstorming, right? We'll be doing the work that's a little hard, a little out there, and it may require some wrong thoughts. And while we will be recording it, we won't be publishing it unless, if someone disagrees with it, right? This is just for our personal records, right? I do think that envisioning really large futures, whether utopias and dystopias, it would be amazing if we had this on record, because it's something that I don't think anyone has done before. That being said, I do want to encourage you to really lean out there and to really try to think the unthinkable, right? Both in the negative and the positive, so we can really make a clear cut, okay?
What can I blog about, what I can't?
Nothing today.
Repeat the question. What can I blog about, what can't I? So,
Yeah.
blog about today.
If you're unsure, find me after this, okay? Then I'll walk you through the nitty-gritty bits. Alrighty, so everyone has their vision, right? You may start filling them in the spreadsheets already, but let's start with the first sessions, okay? So the first sessions will be AI and neurotechnology, okay? Okay, AI will be upstairs, neurotechnology will be downstairs. So everyone who's on the AI track, please follow us upstairs. Everyone on the neurotechnology track, please remain downstairs. Alrighty, and then, wait 1 second. We're gonna be doing this until 12:30, and then there's lunch. Great.